Hey, what's up, my fellow Nerdneck producers? Today I wanted to dive into this track called Hard to Hold by a band called Daphne. They recorded this song themselves in the garage, and I helped produce it remotely, and then I also mixed it. So I wanted to show you all the parts that I added that really made this song sound special and gave it a vibe, helping them stand above all the other noise that's going on right now. So here's a part of the song that really has the band's personality with a bunch of effects that I added in. Check it out.
You don't believe in consequences. You've never had to pay for one. You've never had to pay for
Obviously, there's a lot going on here with automation and effects and tambourines and impact effects and ramping. So I want to go through every element here so you can see what I did. So hopefully you can bring it into your own mix. So one of the first things that I did was I added a bunch of automation to the vocal. I'm going to play the vocal with all the automation going on, and I'll show you what it's affecting.
You don't believe in consequences. You've never had to pay for one.
So here on bus 11 and 12, at the end of the line, I'm having it automate up into this big reverb here, which is CLA vocals, and it has a bunch of stuff going on. It has all these delays. It has a bunch of really long reverb throws, and it's 100% wet. So the only time that this specific reverb is activating is when bus 11 and 12 is getting pushed up towards the end of the line. And then at bus 17, 18 right here, I have it throwing into this delay. And one side is a quarter note, the other side is a quarter note with a third on it, and then there's a ton of feedback on it so that each side goes out the same amount, but they're spreading at different times. And then I also have the low pass filter activating on that. So as it echoes out, the highs get diminished more and more, making room for the rest of the part. Check it out one more time with just these guys on it.
You don't believe in consequences. You've never had to pay for one.
And then the last thing I added was on the actual vocal track, I have a room ambience going on because, like I said, they recorded this in their garage, so they had to record with like a SM7B right up to the mic. So there's really no room ambience, no real studio vibe going on when they were recording. So what I did was I added CLA Epic with just two channels. I have a stereo spreader sort of acting as the room and the clarity of the room. And then I also have a short room activating right here that's only set to 0.6 seconds, sort of mimicking like my live room that I have for recording vocals. And I did remotely produce this track, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be on Zoom call 24/7 while they're tracking, because I feel like that's just another distraction for them as they're tracking, so I just give them notes and whatever. But something I would have done if I was in the room is when they were tracking that line, I would have had to move back from the mic a little bit towards the end of the line, increasing the ambience of the room, maybe increasing the compressor a little bit at that part so that the ambience of the room is really peeking through. So one way that I did that while I was mixing is on the CLA room ambience track. When he gets towards the end of the line, I automate up the mix knob just a little bit so it feels like he's moving away from the mic a little bit as he's singing. So if I mute all these other ambiences here, you'll see the dry and the wet knob move up, and you'll hear a little bit more ambience coming in towards the end of the track.
You don't believe in consequences. You've never had to pay for one.
So that's sort of a cool way that you can force a little bit more ambience into a vocal take. So besides a ton of vocal automation and reverb throws, I also added in a couple effects here. So we have this breath sound effect. As soon as the mix hits, it kicks in, which is just a really cool sample I found on Splice. So check it out in the mix.
You've never had to pay for one.
And another thing I added is I felt like it needed a little more movement, so I added in a tambourine right here. Really emphasizing the difference between the part right before it and the part that's happening. Really showing that, hey, this is a different part. There's new elements going on. This is the part where we really just jam out, and there's a purpose for everything being there. And then the band also sent me this sick sort of like reverse reverb delay throw, which I thought was awesome. So that was all them. That was something they added in because they wanted to emphasize that that part was really important. So I also duplicated that again to hit at the loop of the actual part. So I'll play everything all together right here.
Had to pay for what you've never
And again.
had to pay for what.
Really talented band. And then one of the last things I did, which I thought was kind of a cool like Incubus type thing, was I added a delay on the actual snare of that part, giving that part even more movement. So you can check it out right here. It's going from bus 13-14 into snare delay, and I just have a normal delay with CLA Epic sort of drowning it out into the room a little bit so it's not so electronic sounding. And it's also running off the snare sample that I added in. These are live drums, but I do have a snare sample. If I ran this over the live drums, you'd hear too much of the cymbals and the kick and the bleed through the rest of the kit, because the way that I mixed this was I wanted it to sound a little bit more natural than my usual productions. So I didn't do anything crazy with gating or MIDI note gating or anything like that. So the delay is just running off the snare sample.
Pay for what you've never had to pay for.
Cool. It sounds great. So those are just a couple of my mix tricks that I have. Remember, what I just showed you today doesn't have to be exactly the way it is. These concepts can be used towards anything. You can trigger a flanger to turn on at any part. You can trigger a panning into different parts. It doesn't have to be reverb. It doesn't have to be ambience. It really just depends on the vibe of the track and what you're going for as a producer and as a mixer. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll catch you guys next time. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, do all that YouTube stuff. Peace.